Welcome, college basketball fans, to the Full Court Press Podcast with LT and Sammy D. This is the podcast that brings you legendary stories from college basketball's golden era and dives in deep with a current analysis of today's game. Get ready for the most energetic and entertaining college basketball podcast around. Let's get it.
Hello and welcome to another Full Court Press Podcast, a college basketball experience. LT back in the saddle. We got another great one. I got Sammy D, long distance. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review if you love the podcast, you like the podcast. And if you want to see Daddy dancing, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you're watching us on YouTube, I'm getting another fade today because I got a wedding coming up, so I'm getting the fade. Subscribe on our YouTube channel if you're watching it. Just tap it or press it. But Sammy, what's going on, man? The college basketball season's a couple months away, and I'm getting excited.
Yeah, it's about 2 months away. People are everyone's getting excited. Everyone's back on campus now at all these college towns. So I think you're getting the vibe. Filling the dorm rooms, the campuses. Obviously, start of football season as well. But it is, it's just a privilege to be able to talk to some of these coaches that we've had this past summer during supposedly their off season, right?
Yep.
But it's,
there ain't no off season.
There is no off season anymore for these coaches.
Yep.
Our next guest, he's recognized as one of the biggest competitors and biggest winners, in college basketball. Rightfully so too. It's what he's done as a head coach and then as an assistant coach as well. It puts him up there with some of the best who have done it the past couple decades.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And, and I even said this to him and it's the truth. He always runs clean programs. Kids don't get in trouble. Kids graduate. And you know what? They play hard. And he even hit the nail on the head when he was talking about his UALR team, where they were expecting to pretty much come last. No one on the preseason all-conference team. And they go, what did they go? 30-5. And then they beat Purdue in double overtime in the first round, eventually losing in the second round. But we got Coach Chris Beard from Ole Miss. I called them the Running Rebels, so I might have been off there. But he said when they're on defense, they're going to be running, right?
They are going to be running. They're going to have a defensive squad this year. Some of the guys he picked off of the transfer portal. He had defense on his mind when you look at that. One of the best transfer portal rosters in the country. I don't know how he's going to figure out a starting five and how he's, I think managing that rotation in his team is going to be one of the hardest parts of his job. So
I'm a little offended that no one liked they're going to play with 3 basketballs comment.
They need to. They've got guys.
When you look
Ray
at
the
Davis,
guys on the roster, it's he mentioned how many of them were leading their team in scoring last year, and now they got to come and share the ball. And so, it's going to be a fun team to watch in Oxford, Mississippi. And you mentioned the teams he's built and managed over his career. He runs a tight ship, and that has to go back to what he learned from the legendary Coach Bob Knight. As well as Coach Pat Knight. I think once you're accepted onto one of Coach Bob Knight's teams as an assistant coach, you've earned respect, and you also have earned a responsibility to kind of carry on that legacy while you build your own. The coaches who have worked for Coach Knight, they're few and far between these days. Who are out there. So it was such an honor and a privilege to have Coach Chris Beard on this next episode. And he's won under the hardest conditions. He won at Allen Fieldhouse against KU. You mentioned the win over Purdue and double OT in the NCAA tournament. Beats Michigan State in the tournament, beats Gonzaga in the tournament. It's unprecedented what he's accomplished, just over the past decade. And what he built at Ole Miss last year. I think he's just going to keep building this program into a championship team.
They were 13-0 too. They were 13-0.
It was an incredible. I remember we were talking about them almost every week. They just kept winning. right?
Yeah.
So it's they're a better team this year than they were last year, which is, I mean, it's going to be a really exciting team, but I think they're going to be one of the teams that's not talked about early in the SEC, but by week 3 or 4, everybody's going to be talking about these guys.
Yeah. Do you know his NCAA tournament record as a head
11
coach?
and 5.
I know. It's not impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, he's over 700 as a head coach, right? At some of the best, and that's coaching in the Big 12 for a decade, right? So it's like I said, I mean, the guy's a winner. Everybody knows it. One of the biggest competitors out there, and yeah, a guy that players like playing for, and I mean, that's clearly evident in who he has returning.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was the 2019 AP Coach of the Year. He was also the Jimmy Buffett Coach of the Year that year. You called him out on that one, huh? I like that.
He's got some good Jimmy Buffett references in this upcoming episode. I'm a Jimmy Buffett fan. I mean, I like what it stands for. It's easy. Easy listening music with really good lyrics that kind of hit deep. So I respect that in Coach Beard, but it's what he's done on the court with some of these young men. I mean, it's like I said, it's unprecedented, and the guy's just a flat out winner.
Yeah, he is. So let's watch it. We got some exciting stuff coming up. We're going to be previewing all 31 conferences with some coaches. So we'll have 31 kind of mini episodes, and then we have a new show coming out in October to kind of that's morphed out of this show that will kind of go hand in hand. So we'll tease that a little bit later on. But all right, let's don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and enjoy this great episode with Coach Chris Beard of Ole Miss Rebels on the Full Court Press Podcast, a college basketball experience.
Let's get it.
Well, Sam, I think this is the only head coach we've ever gotten or had on the podcast so far that's never had a losing season as a head coach.
Yeah, pretty legendary career so far. And for some reason, it seems like he's just beginning, you know? But yeah, you look at the record and never had a losing season, coached at some of the best programs in the country, and now leading the Ole Miss Rebels.
Yeah. Coach, welcome.
Glad to be here, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. We're happy to have you. So where I first heard of you was at UALR. I mean, you that was an amazing run you had at UALR that one year. What was that like back then?
Yeah, it was a special team. It coached a lot before that, Little Rock as well. That was our first Division I job. But whenever people ask that, I think about all our wins at Angelo State, McMurray, and other places. So many things to talk about with the Little Rock team, but it was almost like a portal team before the portal. We inherited a good foundation. Steve Shields had been the coach before us, a defensive kind of championship toughness coach. And so we really benefited from inheriting some players that had played for him the year before. We were able to basically sign some transfers. Most of them were junior college transfers. This was before the portal. It's just a team that kind of came together. I think we were picked last in the league. There was no expectations, nobody on like the preseason all conference teams or anything like that. But our players had a different view of what we could be. But when I think back of that team, I just think of how quickly the team came together. We developed a defensive identity. Those guys really cared for each other. I was really proud, not only the best season in school history, but I think it was the best season in Sun Belt Conference history in terms of wins and losses. We won the regular season championship with a few games left to go, and then won the tournament in New Orleans against some really good teams. Bob Marlin had a really good Lafayette team that year with an NBA player. And Coach Richard at Louisiana Monroe had a dynamic team, a really good team. So in the league that year, we had to go through some really good teams to get to the tournament. And obviously that put us in a good position where we could compete with Purdue.
Yeah, but don't you think that's kind of your MO, though? I mean, you look at Texas Tech, what you did at Texas Tech. Look what you did at Ole Miss this past year. And, I mean, the team you've got coming back and the players you got coming in, I mean, people are talking about Alabama, obviously, Kentucky and Arkansas, deservedly so, I guess. But I want to talk about Ole Miss. I mean, you got a team coming back. You got a squad this upcoming year in the SEC.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We, for us, it always starts with expectations. It doesn't really matter what other people say, but what absolutely matters is what those 15 players in our locker room every day are talking about before practice, after practice, when I'm not around. And I think this year's team, we're not shying from it. We have very high expectations internally. Our confidence that we'll be able to compete this year comes from several things. It comes from, overall talent. To return 5 players that played for us last year, and really 4 of those guys were in the rotation. I think that's a real advantage. That's almost like having, all your team back in the old days. But to have 5 guys back, 4 that played major minutes last year gives us a chance. This will be our first freshman recruiting class at Ole Miss, and with Klafke, Bowl, and Day, we have not only 3 guys that are talented enough to help us early, but also huge upsides with all 3 guys, and they've gotten better already in our short time in Oxford. Then the third group of our team that helps us have some internal optimism is the transfers. I think what I would say about our group is not only have they all achieved some personal success at their past schools, but they've all played for really good coaches on winning teams. Several of them have won championships and played in the NCAA tournament. And probably most important for us, we feel like the 7 guys fit together. It's all like putting a puzzle together. It's not just about having a bunch of golden pieces, but can you fit it together? So yeah, we're excited about this year. It's easy to sit around and talk about in early September, but it all starts with very high expectations and a vision that we can compete.
Yeah.
With some of the summer workouts that you guys are having, like how are the guys kind of gelling and working together? Because it is pretty rare that you have so many returners who played minutes last year for a team, right? In kind of this current transfer portal era, right? Well, like what have the summer workouts been looking like, and has anybody really surprised you that stepped in this year?
Yeah, we had a good summer. NCAA gives us 8 weeks. We took advantage of it. We really had 3 objectives before the summer started, and I do think we accomplished all 3 in some form or fashion. First of all, it's just establishing our culture, relationships, team chemistry, the way we like to do things. The players spent a lot of time off the court together. They took a team trip, players only, one weekend, got out of town. We did some things as a team. But that's really important when you have a new team. We're fighting time more than anything. But I think the culture is on its way where it needs to be. Defensively, we wanted to set an identity. We spent the majority of our practice time defensively this summer. Guys are embracing it. Probably equally important to like tactic and the way we're going to play is just a willingness and a desire. Like, hey, this is going to be our identity. We got to get stops. It's important around here. It starts with your best players. Bleeds into the younger guys. But I thought defensively we're not where we need to be in terms of execution. But I think it's safe to say that everybody in the organization understands that that's our plan around here, is to try to have a defense that'll allow us to compete. Then thirdly, offensively, we really just talked a lot about balance, sharing the ball. The most valuable stat that we have in our team this year is the assist, because it means you're looking for somebody else. Again, we have talented guys. We have 6 or 7 guys that were the leading scorer on their team last year. And so the only way this is going to work is if everybody sacrifices a little bit, we get the ball moving. So we had some really high-level offensive possessions this summer when guys are sharing the ball.
Yeah. I feel like, Sam, he's got they're going to play with 3 basketballs at a time, because you have, I mean, let's be honest, you have some scores. The
depth on the team is just ridiculous.
Oh, I mean, it's crazy, and it's going to be fun to watch. The one kid I really like is Malik D from Belmont. I saw him take a rebound last year. I can't remember who they played. I think it was in conference play. Took a rebound, went down the floor, and dunked it. And I'm like, whoever gets him in the transfer portal next year is getting a stud. So you got him.
Yeah, we like D. D is a talented guy. At 6'9", 250. Looks like he should be kind of a power block guy, which he can do, but that doesn't define him. He obviously can stretch the floor offensively, and we've really challenged him defensively. All the instincts and the talent and the IQ and anticipation that allows him to be a good offensive player, we've really tried to challenge and motivate him to understand that you can also be a really good defensive player. If you anticipate how to make a play offensively. You can also anticipate, where things are going defensively. So really proud of his just kind of day-to-day effort. He takes coaching. We have such high expectations for him that we're not easy on him. It's really hard for you on a day-to-day basis. But he embraces it. He's a guy that always comes in the film room. He listens. He takes it. He doesn't have a lot of feelings or immaturity in the film room, and that's related to him basically getting better. I think he's in the best shape of his life right now in early September, which is promising. Obviously, to play in the SEC as a big body guy and not really an above the rim athlete. He's athletic enough in his own ways, but he's a skilled guy. We've challenged him to try to get in the best shape of his life. He's done that through discipline and diet and sleep and extra work. We're high on Dia. I think he has a chance to translate what he got done at Belmont, which was real, to the next level, which is obviously the SEC.
Yeah, talk a little about the three freshmen you have coming in. John Bull, 7'2", McDonald's All-American, Eduardo Klafke, Brazilian sharpshooter, and then Zach Day, one of the best players out of Texas. How do incoming freshmen, what's the philosophy with that these days, with the transfer portal and everything, kind of so many moving pieces as compared to 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, I think the first thing for us is we try to recruit guys that are very competitive, because most of these guys in high school are obviously really talented, but there's a difference between being talented and competitive, because certainly when you get to this level and you're playing against 22, 23-year-old guys and you're 18, to me it all just starts with how competitive are you. And we feel like with Zach and Eduardo and John Bull, it's kind of where it starts with these three guys. I think there's a role for them all earlier in their career, but I think what's really exciting is where these guys could be if they run their own race. And sometimes the race happens quicker than we think, right? We've had guys in our program that we thought we might redshirt, and they end up being a one and done. True story. We've had other guys where the expectations outside is that things are going to happen quickly, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But with our young guys, we really try to get them to embrace the day-to-day process. Don't be looking over your shoulder, either forward or back. Let's win today. And these three young guys had really good summers in terms of how competitive they were and how all three of them are improving in the right rate.
Yeah. What coach, what is a red shirt? I've never heard of that verbiage in 2024.
Yeah, you don't think about that much these days. I still predict that it'll play into this thing at some point.
Yeah.
Especially with name, image, and likeness, eventually there's going to be somebody that's smart enough to try to get, 5 years of some name, image, and likeness instead of 4. But yeah, we're proud of that freshman class. I think, if we can keep these guys focused on getting better in the process and just run their own race, I think we could be sitting here somewhere down the line and be talking about those guys as our best players one day.
Yeah. So it's interesting because everybody's talking about who the best basketball conference is right now, or it's going to be this year. The SEC's got a pretty darn good case to say they're going to be the top dog. What is your kind of prediction with the SEC this upcoming year, where you guys fit? And then also the addition of Oklahoma and some school where you went to called Texas.
Yeah, I think obviously, there's several leagues that can make their case. I think the SEC, it's in the data. More NCAA tournament bids the last couple of years, more players on NBA rosters from SEC schools. You look at the coaching, you've got guys in the Hall of Fame and certainly some guys that are forecasted to be there, later in their careers. So the thing I was so impressed with my first year in the SEC was the home court environments. We all understand what SEC football looks like on a Saturday, but we went to some amazing environments with sold-out crowds and passionate fan bases. And so, I can't speak for other conferences because I'm not there, but I can absolutely speak from my experience in the SEC. I think when you think about the talented players, the coaching, and the fan bases, there's nothing better in college basketball. I could tell you that.
Yeah, but does anybody throw tortilla chips at opposing fans or players?
Did not see a tortilla. Saw a couple other things being thrown last year, but no tortillas.
But did that now you know why I brought up the tortillas, right?
Yes, yeah. 15 years of my life. I understand.
Oh God.
So
that's funny.
I want to kind of transition into your coaching staff. You know, it seems like you've got a pretty loyal group that you've known for, you know, quite some time. And then you add Mark Adams, right? You know, the past couple months, you know, somebody like Coach Adams, you know, who did very well at Texas Tech Sweet 16 team. You know, what is his addition to the Ole Miss kind of coaching staff? Kind of, I mean, obviously it's a pretty big move, you know, for a team to get somebody like him in his new role with you.
Yeah, I'd say first of all, you know, we've been blessed to have some great staffs over the years that give our players the best chance to be successful. The really cool thing about right now in Oxford is just the relationships that we have. If I'm not mistaken, I think everybody on the staff has worked together before. So whether it be Wes and Berg and Coach Adams and I, you know, competing for a championship and winning a championship at Little Rock, or Al Pinkins helping us get things started in Lubbock, was a part of our Elite Eight team. Everybody's worked together at previous spots. And so that means the families know each other, the wives, the kids, and there's just a lot of friendships in our staff, which I think is a big thing. Every basketball season's a grind. It's a journey. So to be going through it with some guys that you love and trust, kind of off the court relationships, is special. Specifically with Coach Adams, we're glad to have him back. I think at the end of the day, you know, we make these decisions on coaching staffs for one thing only, you know, what is best for our players, what gives us the best chance to be successful and to win for our players to achieve their goals. And so I think with Coach Adams, with his experience and his teaching ability, you know, the group that benefits most with him coming back is our players. And he's off to a great start, you know, and I think our players are benefiting on a daily basis.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a long history with the Knight family, and it's pretty interesting the way I look at your career, and it's the same thing as Coach Knight at Indiana. Kids graduated, kids went to class, kids didn't get in trouble. There was no shenanigans per se. How much, or when you sometimes say things or do things, how much of it is it kind of related back to Coach Knight?
Yeah, I think about that from time to time, especially in the last, you know, year or so with Coach passing. You know, I think the bottom line is there's probably not a day that goes by that we don't think about Coach and Pat in some way and execute something that, you know, that they taught us over the years. You know, whether it be the discipline that we like our teams to play with, whether it be the respect off the floor that we like to try to live by. Although we're not perfect, you know, we strive to do things the right way. You know, I think preparation. I think about my coaching career before Coach Knight and Pat, and we'd had some success. We'd won some games and competed for some championships. But I think the idea of preparation, not only game prep, but basically preparing your team every day. It was almost like Coach Knight was constantly doing a self-scout. You know, like most days in coaches' meetings, we would start by just talking about each player on our roster. Let's talk about Andre. Let's talk about Ronald. Let's talk about Daryl. And then let's talk about our offense, our defense. Let's talk about our practice, our last practice, tomorrow's practice. But I think above all, probably preparation is something that we try to emulate every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You think he's ready, Sam?
Yeah, let's let it rip, LT. So Coach Beard, we do a little thing called the shot clock. LT is going to fire off, 5-6 questions. Some of them should be pretty easy, but if they lead to a story, just feel free, whatever you want to share. Let's do it, LT.
Coach. All right, we're going to make it easy. Who had the most personal fouls as a team in the SEC last year?
Tennessee.
No.
Who?
Missouri.
Surprising. I didn't know that.
Yeah. You know who was last, who had the lowest? You were down at the bottom, but guess who was even lower?
I think somebody has the philosophy not to foul around the basket, maybe in Alabama.
Vanderbilt, the smart ones.
Yeah, there you go.
One word to describe Ole Miss.
That's a good one.
Tailgate.
Yeah, I would say family.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. One word to describe the SEC.
Competitive.
Okay. What is your spirit animal?
Gecko.
It's a good one.
The gecko. I like that. We had Coach Mills 2 weeks ago saying he was a largemouth bass. So you're the first one to say gecko, Coach.
Yeah. One of the best books I ever read, A Salty Piece of Land by Jimmy Buffett.
Mm-hmm.
The character in the book is Tully Mars. And Tully Mars basically lived his life with just a couple possessions, kind of similar to me. I'm not a big possession guy. He had a conch shell and a gecko. And so there's some leisure reading for you guys, man. Next time you're on a plane or something, pick up that book. You'll see why I respect the gecko.
I love it. I love it. Do you have Geico insurance too? Is that why or no? Toughest place to play in the SEC?
I'm I haven't been everywhere yet, but I know last year there wasn't an easy place. I'll tell you that. We were searching for one of those. No, there's some great environments. I think not to try to rank them, but what Coach Pearl's done at Auburn. Just Coach West helped Coach there get that thing started. So I like to think I know a little bit about what they did to build that. That's a special home court environment that I don't think is talked about enough in college basketball. And we're off to a great start building our own here in Oxford. Had a big time increase in attendance. Our student section was great last year. So yeah, we're trying to get in that same conversation.
Nice. Funniest recruiting story?
Got a bunch of them. This PG-13 podcast,
you obviously don't know me very well. Where you want to take us, Coach?
Well, when I was at Fort Scott Community College, we had a couple of school vehicles that you could take. And the benefit of taking the school vehicle when you went to recruit is you could get the gas card and it wouldn't come out of your budget, it'd come out like a general fund. So we were always fighting to get the car. We didn't get it much because my boss and AD was the football coach, and there was a pecking order at Fort Scott, although Coach Gunny took care of us. But from time to time, we get I think it was like a 4-door Taurus, but the front driver's side door wouldn't open. And so we'd always do like the Dukes of Hazzard, where they slid in. And I was at a playoff game and somewhere, I think in Kansas or Oklahoma, and recruiting this kid, and junior college rules a little bit different. So you can talk to the kid and the family and all that after the game. So the game ends, the place is completely cleared out. And I find myself kind of walking back to the parking lot with the recruit and his family. There's only 2 cars left in the parking lot, their car and my car, or their car and our car. And they were kind of being polite. And they were basically kind of waiting to see if I would drive off. But I was in kind of a bind there. And so, I think I just went ahead and said, you know what, screw it, man. Like, let's just, it is what it is. So I literally jumped in the window to get into the car because the door wouldn't open, and with the kid and mom and dad and all that. Years later, though, it's like decades later, the kid still remembers it and stuff. So that was a pretty good recruit story.
And did you get the kid?
We did get the kid. He played for us the next year at Seminole Junior College. Ended up being a good player. Sometimes. Yes. We get the rental cars on the road, and sometimes there's kind of a mix up and you can't get the SUV or you can't get this or that. So you end up in a car, and sometimes you're at this level, the coaches will be a little entitled and start kind of bitching and griping about it. And I always just think, hey guys, we're blessed not to be in the Fort Scott Taurus where the door wouldn't open. Let's just get to the next spot.
Yeah. So Coach Calipari doesn't drive a Toyota Yaris.
I can't speak for Cal, but I would assume that he doesn't. I got another great Pat Knight story. So we're in Vegas one time, and those rental cars, they get sold out pretty quick out there. So Pat and I show up, and Pat's about 6'7", 6'6". And remember when J-Lo was advertising those little box cars? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And so that's the only car left. And and I'm like, Pat, man, there's no way. We got to get an Uber or something. He's like, nah, man, we're taking it. So we get in the car, and literally, man, we're like, I can't describe how small the car is. And like, there's no trunk or anything. And so we're pulling up to like Durango High School, or one of those main spots where there's like a 5-star game. And so we're laughing so hard. It's like when you're a kid, you spent the night with your buddy in 7th grade, you just couldn't stop laughing. And so I'm assuming Pat's going to park in the back, but he's laughing. No, man, we're going right up front. So we pull that thing right up front. I can get out, and here you go, Roy Williams is walking by, Tom Izzo, you know, and we were laughing so hard. I'll never forget it. Shout out to Pat.
That's great.
That's awesome. So, Coach, if you were a scented candle, what candle would you be?
Pina colada.
Ooh. We've had that one. We've had that one before, haven't we, Sam? Or no?
Yeah. Coach Beard, I feel like you're a parrot head with some of these, some of the things that you've. The big Jimmy Buffett fan, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't like. Yes, I wasn't the guy that went to a million concerts. I think I saw him live 3 or 4 times. When I went to Key West for the first time, that was through Mike Leach. Coach Leach and I were friends from our time at Tech together.
Mike Leach.
Coach Leach is the one that kind of introduced me to the whole Key West scene. And then I read the book. Jerry Jeff Walker's got a great book too about Key West. It's called Gypsy Songman. But that kind of inspired me, and I really started getting into Buffett's music and stuff, which has kind of led me to like maybe Kenny Chesney. I respect that whole vibe too. So yeah, shout out to Buffett.
Yeah, I missed Kenny Chesney. He came to Arkansas Tech my freshman year, and I didn't go, and it was $12.
Yeah.
In the Tucker Coliseum. I don't know if you know about the Tucker Coliseum. It's only about 6,000 people. It would have been perfect. Would have been perfect. So, Coach, last question I'm going to ask you. What is the song that best describes you?
Against the Wind, Bob Seger.
Oh, you went away from Kenny, Mr. Buffett, or Jimmy Buffett. Wow.
Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. That's a good one.
Yeah, like Buffett and Chesney, those are guys I just enjoy in the certain atmosphere, pool, lake, river, outside. Seger is more like I'm committed to Bob Seger. That's all day, every day.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Nice. Coach, you're just known around the basketball scene as a winner, a competitor. You've won at Allen Fieldhouse against Kansas. You've beaten Michigan State in the tournament. You've beaten Purdue in the tournament. Like, beat Gonzaga in the Final Four to get to the championship game. Like, is there out of the career that you've had, is there one win that really sticks with you?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'll go back to Little Rock. To me, the most intense pressure, most competitive moment in sports. I can't speak for NFL or Major League Baseball. Never done that, but I can tell you this: in mid-major basketball, when you have a championship type season like we did at Little Rock, that's basically elite. But you're not quite in the world of getting an at-large bid. But you've had this championship season, then you got to go win your conference tournament. There's nothing like it, period. Because the players, they understand, the coaches. We've had this season, it's just going to have a huge asterisk next to it if you don't make the tournament. And that year that we went to New Orleans, we had to play the best 2 teams in the league with us to get there. So first it was Coach Marlin and those guys. And to try to beat them 3 times in one season was very, very, very difficult. I know no coach better than Bob Marlin. And then I think in the championship game, again, a sneaky team that people probably don't talk about enough. This Louisiana Monroe team that year. As a matter of fact, I was watching the Olympics this summer and saw one of the teams on one of the Africa teams. I was like, man, that guy's a good player. And it was him. It was a guy that we'd played against years ago. I think his last name was Ding, D-E-N-G, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, to win those 2 games, 80 minutes of basketball with that kind of pressure, I think back and always remember those two games and how much respect and love I have for our Little Rock guys.
Yeah. Have you ever had food with Coach Marlin, some Cajun cuisine?
I have. Yeah, some of the best foods in that town. When I was coaching in the ABA, which is another 2.5-hour podcast, my dad and I lost my dad last June. But this is one of the best stories I have of my dad. My dad and I drove from Houston, Texas, out to Myrtle Beach. It was a 2-man road trip. My dad loved oysters, and we literally had it set up, and we were going to eat a dozen raw oysters 20 times from Texas to Florida, then up to Myrtle Beach. But we went through Lafayette, and Coach Marlin treated my dad like he was Bob Knight, and I'll never forget it. And Coach gave us some great spots to go eat there, so that was a special trip for us. He actually gave my old man a Raging Cajun T-shirt that day. And my dad was a big T-shirt guy, and my dad would wear that shirt all the time. Whenever Lafayette would play on TV, he'd put it on and he'd cheer for Bob Marlin.
Yeah, we had him on a podcast.
Coach Marlin. We had Coach on the show, and just a salt of the earth guy.
Yeah.
Good dude.
Yeah, great dude. Great dude. He invited us to come down and eat food, and I'm overweight, so I should be there in about a week. Sammy,
the view I have on you here, man, you don't look overweight. You look good to me.
Well, the camera says it adds 10 pounds, but I think in Akron, Ohio, it loses about 50, so I feel good.
You need some good Southern cooking in Yelty, that's for sure. Coach, we're going to turn it over to you. Last minute of this episode. Anything you want to share to the Rebel fan base, boosters, alumni, student section, things you guys are working on, looking forward to this season? The platform's yours.
Yeah, right now, not a lot of basketball talk in Oxford, myself included, because our football team has got a real chance here. So what Lane and those guys have done, not only for Ole Miss football, but really all of us, we benefit. It's just a cool time to be in Oxford right now. Baseball winning the national championship just a couple short years ago. What Coach Yo's done in women's basketball is real, and it's been sustained. It's a real program, period. Olympic sports. So what we're trying to do in men's basketball, we're trying to do our part. There's a lot of pressure. You go to these staff meetings and stuff, and Keith Carter gets up there and starts talking about everybody's success. We're trying to do our part. So my message to Ole Miss faithful and Rebel Nation is that we're here. We're excited. We understand the responsibility and the expectations of this program, and we're excited about year 2.
Yeah. Well, we're excited too, Coach. We really are excited. We're looking forward to another great year in the SEC and do some damage in the NCAA tournament. But you're going to stick with us for one more second. Sam, I think it was a great episode. Check out the Ole Miss running Rebels. Are they the running Rebels?
Just the Rebels, baby.
I like the running Rebels.
We're trying to be when we get a defensive rebound or a steal.
There you go, man.
Where it all starts.
There you go.
You're gonna have a squad on defense. I'm looking forward to your defensive stands this year. So
Yep. So, Coach, thanks so much for listening, and thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back next week on the Full Court Press Podcast, a college basketball experience.
Let's get it.